small creature called the Mule Converter, is used to reproduce special pearls that are sacrificed to the earth, a princess named Lihio watches as parts of a human warship lands from the sky. While her family can hide inside a damaged ship, she can't do anything as she's left stranded in a planet about to be destroyed. She then willingly gives herself up and releases a wave of energy across the universe. Meanwhile, a major named Valerian wakes up just as the wave gets past him, and he also turns out to have had a dream about Lihio and the people of Mul. He doesn't think it's anything serious, so he ignores it and plays around with his partner Laureline, who he happens to like. After getting angry that he forgot her birthday, Laureline says they need to leave for a mission. As they enter their ship, Valerian tells the ship's voice automated system, Alex, to scan his brain activity to see if anything is wrong. Alex tells him that his brain activity was really intense a while ago because he received external waves that are not from his memory. Alex also adds that even though it appears that someone sent him the images, she doesn't know who it is. Valerian looks confused by this, but he suddenly gets a call from a government minister who tells him that his next mission is to retrieve the last living Mule Converter. He also gives Valerian and Laureline updates on how the mission will go on a planet called Kyrian. As they arrive there, the two soldiers meet a captain named Gibson and his team, who will be embarking on the mission with them. Shortly after taking a ride to the gates leading to a tourist site, Valerian is dropped off so he can start looking for the Mule Converter. Before he leaves, he asks Laureline to marry him. She initially thinks it's a joke, but Valerian says he's just trying to show that he's ready to commit to her. She eventually tells him to continue the mission, and he then finally leaves, after which he wears a pair of glasses that sends him into a virtual world that can only be seen by other tourists with similar glasses. After a while, he meets with an agent named Cooper, who helps him become invisible as he carries out his mission. Elsewhere, an alien named Igon welcomes two people from planet Mul to his office. One of them turns out to be a prince named Tsuri, who is there to recover the Mule Converter from Igon. However, Igon says he needs to get paid first. Tsuri then gives him one of the shiny pearls from his planet. As he receives the pearl, Igon changes his mind and says he's no longer interested in the trade because the converter can also be useful to him. Tsuri and his friend threaten to kill him, but Igon and his men are also prepared. Before anything happens, Valerian walks in unnoticed and makes his hand visible so he can point a gun at Igon. He then introduces himself as a federal agent, and with Laureline's help, the converter is recovered. Valerian also picks the shiny pearl, but as he's about to walk away, one of Igon's dogs chases him. Cooper eventually has to cover for him, and this helps Valerian escape. However, one of Igon's soldiers soon finds him. After running around, he finally manages to escape and meet Laureline, who helps him leave the virtual world. Despite this, Igon still finds Valerian and sends one of his monster dogs after the Major. Gibson realizes this and immediately alerts Valerian and Laureline so they can run quickly to the bus. As they get there and are about to leave, the monster still tries to get them. Gibson and his men fight really hard to get the monster off their backs, but as it appears to be a losing battle, Valerian calls on Alex to pick him up. As the ship arrives, Valerian and Laureline successfully get on board, after which they also get the monster off their backs. Shortly after, Laureline takes care of the converter so it can look better. Meanwhile, Valerian gets Alex to analyze the pearl. He sees that it's quite powerful and has a massive energy in it. He also discovers that it's from the planet Mul, which he saw in his dream earlier. As he digs deeper, he realizes that the planet is no longer in existence. This surprises him, so he decides to check further, but it turns out that the file is classified. This gets him concerned, but Alex says only a commander can access the remaining files on Mul. Just then, he and Laureline focus on their journey to a city of 1,000 planets called Alpha. As they arrive, they meet a general named Octobar who asks about the converter. After they confirm that it's in good shape, Octobar shows them the true extent of the mission. He says that after the government found a radioactive zone in the middle of nowhere, they sent a few soldiers to check it, but no one came back. He also mentions that since the radioactive zone has grown bigger, there might be a threat there. As he talks, he gets interrupted by a commander named Aaron, who says the threat needs to be eliminated immediately. Valerian is not sure if it's the right thing to do since no one knows what's there, but Aaron insists. He then speaks to the minister, who says he can leave for the mission with Valerian and Laureline as his security detail. Aaron says he prefers to leave with his K-Tron robot soldiers, but the minister tells him it's against protocol. He doesn't look happy with this, but he eventually agrees to the terms. Aaron then secretly leaves there and meets with a doctor who is helping him torture a creature from Mul to get information on where the other survivors are. As the doctor says he hasn't gotten anything yet, Aaron tells him to kill the creature if things remain the same after a while. He then walks out and tells his robot soldiers that if anything goes wrong with his personal operation, they need to act fast. Later that day, while the commander gets ready for a briefing, he asks to take the Mul converter from Laureline, because it's what he'll use during any negotiation with the threat they're facing. However, Valerian says it needs to remain with Laureline because anyone could be after it. Aaron doesn't like this, but he accepts their concerns. While he's then at a briefing with Valerian also present, Laureline is approached by 3 creatures named Dogan Dagui. She looks irritated by them, but as she mentions it to Valerian, he tells her to ask if they know anything about Mul. After she asks them, they tell her that the best person to ask would be a major named Samk. However, it turns out Samk was murdered a year ago. As they then talk about how Samk was an expert on Mul, the whole facility is placed on red alert. A sergeant named Neza communicates with Octobar and Aaron that he can't seem to understand what's happening. He also mentions that he and the other soldiers in the control room can't get out. Valerian hears this and immediately calls Laureline to join him inside to protect Aaron. As they do this, a group of creatures from Mul break in and spray a slimy substance to freeze everyone in the room. Before he is sprayed with it, Valerian inserts a device in his mouth to help him escape afterward. After everyone is frozen, the creatures leave with Arun. Following this, Valerian frees himself and also helps Laureline, after which he tells her that the creatures took Aaron most likely because they thought he was with the converter. He then tells her to free the others and get to the control room to give him directions to find Aaron. As she does this, Valerian struggles to chase the creatures. He ends up losing control and falling into a dead zone. As Laureline loses contact with him, she says she needs to find him, but Octobar stops her, saying they don't know the enemy yet. Laureline says it's hard to believe the enemy is dangerous because they didn't kill anyone. Despite this, he asks 2 soldiers to take her away. She, however, manages to overpower the 2 soldiers so she can find the Dogandagi trio, who might know how she can find Valerian. When she meets them, they confirm that they know how Valerian can be found, but they ask to get paid for the information. She pays them what she has, and they take her to meet a fisherman named Bob, who can help them find a Cortex jellyfish. Bob agrees to help after getting paid, and as he leaves with Laureline, it doesn't turn out as easy as expected. However, they eventually recover the jellyfish and return to meet Dogan Dagi. Laureline is then told that the jellyfish can help her find Valerian if she can put it over her head and think about him. Even though she's not sure about this, she does it and it works. Following this, she leaves and finds Valerian still unconscious in the dead zone. After waking him up, he looks shocked to see her there, but she says she came to save him. He immediately wants to resume the mission, but she gets upset because he didn't thank her. Valerian, however, says sorry and adds that he really loves her. Elsewhere, Octobar learns that Laureline already escaped and went to the dead zone. As he suspects that she might have found Valerian, he is told that he has some visitors. It turns out to be the Doghan Dagi trio, who say they have useful information that might interest him. They ask him to pay, and after he agrees to do so, they show him the creature from Mul that is being tortured. Octobar is beyond annoyed to see this, and he tells his men to arrest the doctor. As Octobar tries to learn more about the situation, the creature tells him that his people need help. Just then, the creature dies and sends a massive wave of energy across the universe. Shortly after, Octobar asks Nesa to find out more about the creature, but he discovers that there's no information on such species at all. Nesa then suggests that it has likely been deleted, and this leaves Octobar shocked. As Valerian is trying to find a way to leave the dead zone, Laureline tries to catch a butterfly, but it turns out to be a fishing trap by some creatures from a place called the Bulong territory. Valerian immediately goes after her, but as he gets down, he sees that she has been taken into a restricted area by the Bulong. He asks Alex for help, but she says the only way he can get in is to look like a Bulong, and that he might need a glamopod to help him change form. He then walks around the city and finds a man named Jolly, who says he has what Valerian is looking for. He, however, takes Valerian to watch a show performed by a lady named Bubble, who is his slave. Bubble turns out to be a shapeshifter, and her dance performance impresses Valerian. After she's through, he asks for her help, but as she tries to play mind games by transforming into Laureline, Valerian brings out his gun. Before Jolly can do anything, he gets killed. Valerian then tells Bubble why he needs her help. Even though she initially hesitates because she has always been scared of Jolly, Valerian tells her that he's dead, so she agrees. She then climbs on Valerian's body and transforms into a Bulong so they can enter the territory to find Laureline. Meanwhile, after much hesitation, Laureline finally has to give in to the Bulong creature's demands to wear a fancy dress for her. Elsewhere, Neza informs Octobar that Valerian's DNA signature has been tracked to the Bulong territory. He looks shocked because no one ever comes out alive, so he tells Neza to call the minister to get reinforcements. While Valerian and Bubble are blending in, they see that the Bulong king is being served several meals, which he doesn't like. After a while, Laureline arrives to serve him, but the king seems rather interested in eating her head. As Valerian sees this, he intervenes and saves Laureline, after which he kills all the Bulong creatures in the room. More creatures soon enter the room, so Valerian leads Bubble and Laureline to escape through a manhole. As they land in a sewer, Valerian sees that Bubble is injured. She, however, says he shouldn't be worried about her. She also tells him to take care of Laureline because she loves him. Just then, she dies, and Valerian leaves with Laureline. Elsewhere, Octobar is made the new commander of the operation. Following this, he asks the minister for clearance on all Arun's past operations. After he gets it, Octobar sees that a war between two planets was the reason planet Mool got destroyed. However, he sees that the report also shows that Mool was uninhabited. This shocks Octobar, but as he tries to get more information, he gets denied again. Meanwhile, Valerian keeps leading Laureline toward an unknown place. When she asks about it, he says that even though he can't explain it, Lihio-Mina is guiding him towards her people. Shortly after, they reach a colorful wall in a place that was believed to be the radioactive zone. As they wonder what to do next, Tsuri comes out and says his father, the Emperor, has been waiting for them. Valerian and Laureline don't hesitate to follow him, and after going through the wall, they see the Mool creatures. As they meet the Emperor, he says his daughter's soul picked Valerian's body. He then explains that when they die, they release a wave of strong energy, which transports their soul until it picks anyone to be the recipient. Just then, the Emperor explains what happened on the day their planet got destroyed. He says they were a victim of someone's war, and the person tried to wipe out the survivors because they were proof that Mool was actually inhabited. It then turns out that Arun was the commander who blew up a warship with fission missiles, even though it was in the path of Mool. Despite being warned about it, Arun didn't care because he was more interested in ending the war. The Emperor then says that, after the apocalypse, he and some of the other creatures were able to stay alive on an abandoned ship that they eventually remodeled and put to work again. With this, they were able to go to Alpha to learn many things from the different species there. After years of moving around without a home, they finally found a way to restore their planet, but they couldn't do it without the Mool converter and the Pearl. The Emperor also adds that it's why they kidnapped Arun, thinking the items were with him. Shortly after, they wake Arun to face the allegations, but he lies to Valerian and Laureline. After seeing that they're not believing him, he lashes out and confesses to his crimes, saying he couldn't afford to let the government take the blame for everything because it could make them lose their supremacy on Alpha. He also confirms that he knew the planet was inhabited, and it's why he also killed Samk, because he knew too much. Valerian gets tired of this and eventually knocks him out. As Laureline is then about to present the Mool converter to the creatures, Valerian stands against it, saying it's meant to be government property. Laureline looks annoyed by this and tells him that his lack of compassion is why she keeps having problems with him. Because he loves and trusts Laureline, Valerian eventually grants his permission to give them the converter, after which they use it to power their new ship to be a replica of their old home. Following this, Valerian is freed of Lihio-Mina's soul. Meanwhile, Octobar has sent his men to the enemy zone to take them down. Because it was part of Arun's instructions, some of his robot soldiers also joined the operation. Tsuri sees this and immediately informs his father. Seeing as this could be a big problem, Valerian and Laureline decide to connect with Octobar through the comms on a small ship. Despite seeing no sign of contamination, Octobar instructs his men to set explosives in front of the colorful wall, with only 4 minutes left for it to detonate. As they evacuate and prepare to leave, the soldiers see the Mool creatures coming out of the wall and greeting them. Octobar is informed about this, and as he wonders what to do, he gets a call from Valerian and Laureline. They tell him about Aaron's crimes, and because it adds up, Octobar pauses the detonation and asks to speak to the commander. Immediately, they wake Aaron to speak to Octobar. He says he'd rather die than face humiliation. He then tells Octobar to annihilate everyone, but the instruction appears to be for his robot soldiers, who start shooting at both the human soldiers and the creatures on Mool. The robot soldiers still at the control center also continue the explosion countdown, after which they start shooting at the human soldiers in the room. Despite this, Octobar remains safe and tells Neza to find a way to stop the countdown. Meanwhile, Valerian realizes what's happening, so he goes to help the creatures outside the wall while Laureline beats up Arun. Before the countdown gets to 0, Nisa manages to stop it, and Arun's soldiers also get killed. Valerian then goes through the wall again, just in time to see the creatures from Mool leave with their ship and disappear to a new place they can call home. Shortly after, the remaining soldiers at the scene notice that the creatures have left. They inform Octobar about this, but before they leave, they hear Arun calling for help. However, Octobar tells them to arrest the commander. Elsewhere, Valerian and Laureline have been dropped off in space by the creatures from Mol. As they then find their way back to Alpha, Valerian asks Laureline to marry him, and this time she accepts.